Welcome back. In this short tutorial, we look at the time element used in action conditions. From this table, which we introduced in the last tutorial, we can see that time is a dynamic dual mode element, which means we can use it as either a trigger or a state. Its primary use is as a trigger event, triggering an action when a specific time is reached. But we can also interrogate its active state, the precise length of which is based on the speed of the iTrain clock. So, as well as being able to set a very accurate point in time where the trigger occurs, we can also use the time element's state as a precise window of time in which an action can occur. In the table, I also described the testable state of time as being momentary on only. Let's take a closer look at what that means. So I've opened the action editor and I'm going to click new for a new action, which I will call 0800 hours. In the condition tab, I click append to add the first item, double click in the column, and I'm selecting the time element. Now, unlike most of the other elements listed here, time does not have a field called state. So there isn't an on or an off or an active or inactive state that we can choose from. The state is actually the time and the day. The time is specified in hours and minutes using the 24-hour clock. So, for example, 0800 hours. And we need to select at least one of the days of the week. I will choose Monday through to Friday, excluding the weekend. And now we see that all reflected in the item line here. On reaching the specified time on the specified day, iTrain generates an event which remains active or on for exactly 60 seconds. But those 60 seconds are based on iTrain's own internal clock, which we can see running down here in this box. That clock is capable of running faster than normal time to allow us to scale time and therefore simulate a day in less time. If we close the editor and then go to the edit menu and to settings, in the general tab we see this area called time, and there's a field called factor. Currently the iTrain clock is set at factor 1, which means it is running in our real time. So 1 second in iTrain's time shown on the clock here is the same as 1 second in our real time. But we can change this factor to speed up time. For example, if I set it to 5, that means that the clock is now running 5 times faster than real time. So the time pulse that remained active for 60 seconds when it was at factor 1 would now only remain active for 12 seconds. We've divided the 60 seconds by 5. So at the moment you can see the time ticking by at a 1 second real-time rate, but look what happens when I press OK to save this factor as 5. Watch the seconds here. You see they're now running 5 times faster than our real time. So here we're showing the time condition element when it is running at factor 1. The trigger event occurs at precisely 0800 hours on Monday, for example, and then remains active until the iTrain clock reaches 0801. The length of the active state at clock factor 1 is precisely 60 seconds in our normal or real time. Here's the same thing again, but with a factor of 5. The trigger event still occurs at precisely the same time, 0800 on Monday, and remains active until the clock reaches 0801. But this time, at factor 5, the duration of that active pulse is now only 12 seconds. So just something to keep in mind when using the time element with a factor of greater than 1. But the point of showing this is that it provides a very precise defined window in which we can allow an action to execute. In other words, to restrict the time during which an action can execute. To demonstrate that, I've created this simple action. It consists of an AND operator, and then below it, grouped together, are a relay element and the time element. The time is set at 0800 from Monday through to Friday. So this action will only activate when both of these elements are active at the same time. And when that occurs, it will execute the command here, which is to play the sound file. The action is active, as shown by the tick, so we can close down the window. I can actually stop the system clock by right-clicking on it here. Now you see it's greyed out and the clock has stopped. We can open the clock window by double-clicking on it at any time, whether it is stopped or whilst it is running. So double-click, and here we have the clock. And I'm going to adjust the time to sometime just before 0800 hours. So 07:59, and let's say 15 seconds. Press OK, and we can see that the clock has now changed to that set time. Now you can see here that the relay is currently on, but I'll turn it off before we start the clock. As soon as I restart the clock, I will turn on the relay just to show you that the event of that relay turning on does not trigger the action until the clock reaches 0800 hours. As soon as it reaches 0800, we will hear the sound file play. I will then turn the relay off and on again whilst the clock is still reading 0800, and we will hear the sound file play. And then when it reaches 0801, I will turn the relay off and on again, and you will see that the action does not then trigger. So here we go. I'm going to right click to start the clock. Clock has started. Turn on the relay. Nothing happens until it gets to
Welcome to iTrain.
0800. Turn it off and on again. It triggers again. But then as soon as we get to 0801 here, turn it off and on, and now it no longer triggers. Turn the clock off by right clicking on it. So in effect, I have restricted the playing of the sound to only occur within a precise window of time. And that is one way in which you might want to use the time element, using it as a state. So now let's look at the more common way of using time, which is as a trigger. One example is to use it as a rudimentary scheduler, triggering an action which causes a train route to begin at a specified time. Let's quickly create it. We'll go to the action editor, and here is that 0800 action that I created earlier. So we've created the condition 0800 Monday through to Friday, and that is the only condition that we need. I want the train to start a train route at 0800 every day of the week, excluding the weekends. For the execution, I want iTrain to select whatever train is currently in South Platform 1. To do that, I can use the actual train variable. So I click append, double click on the type, and then go to actual train. Now we'll talk about this variable in a later tutorial about actions, but for now we just need to know that it allows me to use the train currently located in a specific block, and that block we said was going to be South Platform 1. That's our first item. Click append, and here I want to start a specific train route, so a double click and select train route from the list. I need to select a train. I don't want a specific train name. I want to use the train that has just been assigned to the actual train variable in this previous step. So I select actual train. I don't select a train type. If I did do that, the route field disappears. So we want to leave that as it is and just go straight to the route. And here I select the train route that I want iTrain to run. We'll select this one called Full Circle. Now it's important that the block that we have selected here is listed in the route that we select here, and that the train is travelling in the correct direction for the route. Otherwise, it won't work. The block does not have to be the first block that is listed in this route. It just needs to be one of the blocks that is listed. And then iTrain will pick up the route from that point. But don't just pick any route and expect it to work. The block here needs to match the route here. Full circle is a train route that I created previously. So now we have an action that will trigger at 0800 hours on Monday through to Friday, and when it executes, it selects the actual train that is located in South Platform 1 and then assigns the train route called Full Circle to that train and then starts the route. Press Apply to save it. We see that it is now active. I'm going to disable this other one just so it's not playing at the same time, and then we can close down the window. I'll place a train in South Platform 1 to pretend that we've got a train waiting there to leave. And I'll reset the clock by double clicking on it and setting that to 07:59 and let's say 30 seconds. Click OK. So I'll right click to start the clock, and as soon as it gets to 0800 nothing happens. Okay, so what's gone wrong there? Let's stop the clock. So why didn't that action? Let's have a quick look at our action again. Okay, so the condition was 0800 Monday through to Friday, so that's all okay. We set it to actual train South Platform 1 and actual train and full circle and start. Well, that all looks okay, doesn't it? Let's just check the clock again. We set this back to 07:59:30 and look, we've got the weekday set as Saturday and our action excluded the weekends, doesn't it? So let's set this to Monday, click OK, and then restart it again and see what happens. Fingers crossed. There we go, and we can see the train has increased speed and is now starting this train route called Full Circle. Thank goodness for that. Now that was a very basic scheduler. There's all sorts of additional sophistications we could add to the action, such as other conditions and other execution items, or we could add an action button assigned to that action, and that would then bypass the time condition and set the route off manually, if you like. So that was a quick-ish demonstration of how to use the time element. We can either use it as a state, which has a 60-second period during which the state can be interrogated based on iTrain's own running clock, or we can use it as a trigger, as just demonstrated. So that's it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll have a look at another one of the condition elements in the list. Thanks for watching.